Speak No Evil.
Yes, so this is a remake of a Danish psychological chiller from 2022, which I reviewed last year when it was on Shudder because we had a recommendation from a listener saying,
Okay.
this was a take it or leave it, you decide. They said you should watch this, okay? And so the original was co-written and directed by Christian Taftrup. Danish couple on holiday with their daughter. They meet a Dutch couple with a son who can't speak due to congenital aglossia. And then after the holiday, the Danish couple receive an invitation to go and visit the people they met on holiday. And they said they barely know them. But the husband says, why not? And they go and visit them. And their house is, small, beautiful, isolated woodland area. And things seem okay. And then things become increasingly inappropriate and awkward. But they are guests. So they're kind of, in fact, I think guest was the original title. But they're kind of constrained by rules of politeness. And so there's this real kind of horror of awkwardness. You don't know whether your hosts are they just a bit odd or what's going on. Anyway, I really liked it. And when I reviewed it, I mentioned Ruben Östlund saying that all his films are about people trying not to lose face. And I made the comparison with Sporløs, the original version of The Vanishing. This is when I reviewed the original version of Speak No Evil. And I said, there is a comparison because in The Vanishing, it's about a couple traversing a border and finding themselves in a place when they don't quite speak the language. And this had a kind of similar quality. But of course, Sporløs was famously remade by its original director in a US version, which completely botched the ending and completely destroyed the film. So now this film, which when I reviewed it the first time around, I said it gets really, really dark. It upset me quite a bit in a good way. I was properly creeped out by it. Now, this has a remake from Blumhouse Productions. This is written and directed by James Watkins, who co-wrote the very nasty My Little Lie, directed the really creepy and upsetting Eden Lake, and also directed The Woman in Black, which, if you remember, got the BBFC into trouble for being the scariest 12 certificate film that, the 12-year-olds were going to see it and being absolutely terrified by it. So this time round, Scoot McNair and Mackenzie Davis are Ben and Louise. They are the holidaying couple. They're in Italy. They meet up with James McAvoy and Ashton Kutcher, who she was brilliant in The Nightingale. He's good in the things. He's a doctor. As before, the first couple have a daughter, Agnes. The second have a son who doesn't speak. As before, the first couple accept an invitation to visit their new friends, in their remote house. Despite knowing them, they're told this time they said, you must come to the West Country. Whenever anybody says West Country, you start thinking Straw Dogs. And they go and visit them, even though they barely know them. And as before, there is this underlying sense of awkwardness. So at first, it starts with the wife and mother is sort of forced to eat freshly killed meat, despite the fact that she's explained many times that she's a vegetarian, but she's being polite, but she has told them she's a vegetarian. And then the wife in the family of the hosts, the partner and family of the hosts, starts telling off her daughter about how to eat. She said, would you mind not telling my daughter how to eat and not to do things? And then we see the character played by James McAvoy openly sort of bullying his son, and it all becomes very, very, what's wrong with these people? And then they start having discussions about sex, which seem to be completely inappropriate. But on the other hand, the couple, the guests, they're kind of uptight and they've got their own marital problems. So I don't know, maybe something's going on here that will improve, will help them kind of loosen up. And then there is an injury, and they go to the James McAvoy character and go, well, great, you're a doctor. Now, James McAvoy is really relishing the role, and he's doing it brilliantly. He's obviously having a great time having the opportunity to play a character who may or may not be dangerous. Now, here's the thing. If you've seen the trailer, we know from the trailer that it's the latter, because in the trailer, we see Louise say, we can't look scared. We just have to go out there and look completely normal because they're going to kill us. And we know that it's a horror movie. But as with the original, Watkins does a very good job at kind of keeping us guessing. Even when we know where it's going, there is the horror is still coming from the horror of social unease and anxiety about, I don't know how to play this, as much as any actual threat. Then in the later stages, it does something that the US remake of The Vanishing did, which is that it adds a kind of reconfigured final act that cranks everything up. The difference is when they did it with The Vanishing, when Slicer did it to his own film with The Vanishing, it destroyed the movie. This time, against all the odds, the retooled ending actually works. As a fan of the original, I really think this did it justice and added a new twist and made it its own film. And I thought that it was really well done. I mean, if you haven't seen the original, and a lot of people won't have done, this is a gripping, edge of your seat thriller. It's a real kind of pulse racing nail biter with with this great performance at the center of it. But if you have seen the original, I think it works as an addendum. It's not something that that there are parts of it in which it very very closely follows the original, but when it makes its departures, it does so in its own way, and I think it does so to its benefit. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, I knew the story beforehand, but I sat there thinking, yeah, it's that painful, really, really painful horror of being in somebody's house and you don't want to appear rude, but they are really, really weird. And the more you don't want to appear rude, the weirder they become. And then all hell breaks loose.